First item on the agenda is the Commissioner's Office requesting the Board approve and execute the minutes of the meeting of December 2nd, 2014.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Sweetie? Aye.
Aye, motion approved. There you go, Mary. Okay, number 2 is going to be the financials with Heidi. Good morning, Heidi.
Good morning.
You need a theme song.
You go top of the Alps, they got a little house and it's got Heidi on
My braids.
it. You're famous.
Financials today include revenue certifications for the Building Standards Assessment Fund and the County Water Systems Fund, an appropriation transfer from the Contingency Fund to return appropriations to the Sheriff's Office for web check and other expenses reimbursed and deposited into the General Fund. We have supplemental appropriations for the Public Assistance Fund, the Water Resources and Water District Funds, the Treasurer's Delinquent Tax, and the Clerk of Court's Title Fund for year-end processing, as well as the Transportation Fund for the repayment of the 2014 payroll advance. Cash transfers out of the General Fund for OWD debt payments for the water tower and the County Water Treatment Plant, and the local match portion of reimbursement number 2 of the Airport FAA Grant 3-3900541714. We have a purchase order for Lebanon Ford for the state bid purchase of a 2014 Ford K8 all-wheel drive SUV vehicle for the Department of Emergency Services in the amount of $26,476.80. Contract for Johnson Controls for the Performance Contracting Project Development Agreement for the Department of Water Resources in the amount of $55,000. Payment to Keystone U.S. Management, DBA Tyco Integrated Security for the purchase and installation of 2 video recording cameras for the Geauga County Safety Center in the amount of $15,872. And then we have 2 payments for Board of DD. The first one is a payment to Tremco for the purchase of roofing materials for the Board of DD Administration and Adult Services buildings in the amount of $306,445.92. And the second one is the payment to building technicians for pay request number 1 for the Board of DD Administration and Adult Services Buildings Roof Replacement Project in the amount of $227,520.
Okay. I will make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Sweetie? Aye. Commissioner Spudler?
Aye. Motion approved. Thank you, Heidi. Okay, number 3 is the Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute resolution number 14-180 authorizing an increase to the maximum limit for blanket purchase orders from $15,000 to $25,000 to accommodate the operational needs to county departments, offices, and agencies to be effective January 1st, 2015. Did you want to talk about this?
Yeah, this is just to save some administrative costs. The blanket PO limit has been at $15,000 for quite some time, and we have the ability. I think you can ultimately raise it up to $50,000 if you like. We thought as kind of an interim step, we at least get it up to $25,000, maybe save departments from having to cut as many blanket POs.
We thought it was $25,000.
No.
So give me an example of like where this would be used, Dave.
Well, county engineers say they're buying road materials, asphalt or gravel or site or something like that. This allows them to make multiple purchases from a vendor and put it under, or vendors and put it under that blanket PO. Okay. So what they have to do is they're making these, 5,000 here, 5,000 there. They have to keep an eye on it. And when there's not enough there to make their next purchase, they got to do a new one.
I see.
So it's just going to maybe reduce the number that they have to do.
Or maybe a car too. Sometimes.
Well, a car
truck
typically
or a vehicle.
Yeah, typically they're going to do that on a special contract.
Special contract.
A blanket is more for repetitive stuff like office supplies and things where you don't have to have an encumbrance for a specific purchase, single purchase. You're using it for multiple purchases of a similar type.
I see. Okay. Yeah. All right. There's no other questions. Then if we get a motion for
I'll
that.
make that motion.
And I'll second that.
Commissioner Sweetie? Aye. Commissioner Spudler?
Aye. Motion approved. Okay. Number number 4 is the Geauga County Airport Authority. Morning.
Morning. How's everybody?
Good.
Everybody looks great. I love that last name.
Thank you. Polka dots.
Yeah.
Movies.
Well, we're here for a few things today. First, we have our request number 2 for our current project that's gone to FAA, and we would like your acknowledgement that we are requesting from them payment on the grant of $15,000. Of that, $13,500 was the FAA portion, and $1,500 was the local match.
Okay. Okay. For number 4, if we could do a read.
The Geauga County Airport Authority is requesting the board acknowledge and approve reimbursement request number 2 for FAA Project 339005400172014 in the amount of $15,000, $13,500 FAA portion, and $1,500 local match.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Sweetie?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye. Motion approved.
The next 2 are kind of housekeeping things for the end of the year. We have our federal financial form 425, which actually covers parts of Project 1512, Project 1613, and the project that will be coming up, if we approve so, will be 1714. And they are basically just to let everybody know what has been spent on the projects, what has been closed out. It's just a year-end type form. And with that one, if you want to do 4, 5, and 6 together, the standard form 271 is another form that the FAA requires that is an outlay report again, and it covers all 3 of those grants as well.
Okay. All right. So then if we want to, let's just go ahead and do 5, 6, and 7 together.
7 is
Or, I'm sorry,
new
5 and
grant
6.
coming- yeah.
Yep.
The Geauga County Airport Authority is requesting the board approve and authorize the president of the board to execute the federal financial report for projects AIP 33900541512, 33900541613, and 33900541714 for the fiscal year-end grant totals. The Geauga County Airport Authority is requesting the board approve and authorize the president of the board to execute the outlay reports for projects AIP 33900541512, 33900541613, and 33900541714 for the fiscal year-end grant totals.
I'll make those motions.
Second.
Commissioner Sweeney?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye. Motion approved.
And lastly here, we will be looking to take some grant funds in 2015, and we are filing for a pre-application, which gives the FAA an opportunity to look it over, see if it's something they want to qualify us for. You know, we have been able to keep the airport pretty self-sustaining with the exception of these capital improvement projects. And without the federal assistance that we get from FAA and or ODOT, we could not keep up and make the corrections and or replace the pavement, the things that we need to do that are capital improvements. We could not afford to do so. And the entitlements that come out to airports, the FAA has set up through an act of Congress entitlements of $150,000 a year to come out to the general aviation airports. And if we do not take those, then they are given to somebody else. So with, Geauga County kind of being
How much is it?
$150,000 a year.
Okay.
We do have to match it, 10%. So we are on the hook for about $15,000. But if we don't take it, somebody else gets the money that the taxpayers of Geauga County have paid to the federal government. And I think that would be a crime. So in this case, we have a paving project that we're going to be working on. And we are going to be looking at some safety things coming up. We're going to be installing some new PAPI lights for the runway, and we're going to do the engineering on all that, get that all set, and that will probably be the following grant that will include the PAPI lights. But we are looking for a total from the FAA, and this is a couple years of grant money that we have saved up. $339,459. Of that, $305,513 is what we have saved up at the FAA, and then the county share will be $33,946 in a match. And that pre-application's all ready to go. We're just looking for signatures, and then
Are those
once
happy lights the little ones that are?
Pappies are like the end lights. What they actually do is they sit parallel to the runway, and then if you are coming in at the right angle, those lights will shine green to you.
Oh.
If you are coming in at a wrong angle or too short or too long, it will show red so that you know you have to go around and do
Oh,
it.
that's pretty
Like a
important.
glide slope
Yeah.
thing, almost like
Correct.
a landing system on aircraft.
Correct.
I didn't realize that.
And it's now the only, our current rail lights are starting to go. We're starting to see a lot of corrosion in our runway lights and our rail lights. So this is now the only set of lights that FAA will fund. It's what they want all airports to have now. So we're going to convert over to these and get caught up with most of the other airports around that already have them.
That's good.
It's a good safety feature
Oh,
for us,
absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Come on, that stuff cool.
Okay. Well, good then. If we can do a read on that, then
The Geauga County Airport Authority is requesting the board approve and authorize the president of the board to execute the application for federal assistance pre-application for FAA Project 3390054-0182015 to install Pappies RWYS 11 and 29 benefit cost analysis and design only and reconstruct asphalt apron for a total amount of $339,459. $305,513 FAA portion and $33,946 county match.
I'll make that motion.
second.
Commissioner Sweeney?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Hi, Patty. I was having a hard time sleeping the other night, so I tried to read some of this stuff. As far as that grant goes with that aviation thing, how did, I mean, I couldn't really see a whole lot of strings attached as far as, I mean, it's just, at the end of the day, I mean, I know they hit on some education issues that we need to, you know, just look to continue to keep, you know, younger generations involved in aviation, but I mean, it seems like it's just a scenario that money is out there and just us trying to basically apply for it. If we don't, we're just,
Right, then we can't do the capital improvements. Yeah, we're out, yeah.
Plus, we won't have what we need to operate as an airport, I would think.
Right. Well, they do, whenever we sign the grant, you will, when they actually approve the grant you sign it, you will also be assigning some assurances that you give the FAA. And they don't want to continually put money into a place that is going to close and or be run down. So you do give them some assurances at the time that you physically sign the grant, which will probably come in August of 15. And they basically revolve around, they do give preference to veterans when you're hiring or things. They ask you to keep the airport open going forward 20 years. So that is something that is committed to, and they will assist, as they have done, and I don't see that being an issue. They do ask you to, there's 39 different assurances. And you know, the big ones are monies that are made on the airport need to stay on the airport so that you're not making money on the airport, giving it somewhere else, and then asking for federal assistance.
Yep.
So, I mean, they all make sense.
yeah.
Some of them, yes, they want to keep us educated and make sure that we're all doing things that are going to make airports safe. Everything is related to safety. So the insurance that you give them are ones that
Reasonable.
are reasonable.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
The longest one is keeping the airport going, forward for 20 years. But
Yeah, because we discussed that many years ago about
Yes.
closing the airport, and there's so much money involved that we've received
Sure.
that it would be overwhelming for us.
and it's not always a matter of just paying it back.
It's more than
The
that.
FAA doesn't want that. They want the airports kept open, and they are willing to assist with them. And it's been working very well. I mean, I've been here almost 10 years.
Yeah.
And, what we take in on the things we sell there, the fuel, the hangar rents, are able to sustain us operationally. It's
That's
these
good.
capital improvements that we could not make if we didn't take assistance.
Plus the
The
flight.
medevac is the
Medevac
big
is
game
a
changer.
big-
That has been really
Which-
nice for us. And then there's going to be a new improvement coming up for airports. We've been noticing throughout the years and lobbying a little bit to ODOT because all of the fuel sales and the taxes on those fuel sales that are done by Ohio airports amount to over $13 million a year for Ohio. And they give back right now $800,000 in the forms of grants. And the FAA has been saying, okay, well, we always ask the airports, money that's made on the airport should stay on the airport. Why isn't this staying on the airport?
Yeah.
Good point.
So
That's a
now
good
what
point.
they're doing is the FAA has given ODOT Department of Aviation 3 years to move that money out of their general fund and into some type of a grant program to start helping all of the airports in Ohio. So we'll now have another pool to draw from for the first time, and we're going to try to take advantage of that as well. The money's already been there. It's already been made by our airport, been paid by our pilots and our people that use the fuel there, and it's time that it comes back to assist the airport is the program. So they've got 3 years to do that, and we'll be applying for some of those grants as we go through.
Okay. Well, thanks again for all the hard work there.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, Patty.
Ralphie, can you stay on the number 13?
No, number 13.
That was our public hearing that was advertised.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
That's okay.
Okay. Hey, good morning, Kelly. The commissioners will hold a public hearing at 10:15. We're a little bit late, but for the amendment of number 1 to the 2013 Community Development Block Grant CDBG allocation.
I'll make a motion to waive the reading of the, what was in the paper.
I second that.
Aye.
And I. Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
Good.
This is the legal notice that we have to put in the paper that we brought forth a few weeks ago, a request for the amendment because we had to eliminate 2 projects. We wanted to not send all that money back to the state. We had a vital project with the fairgrounds that could have used the money to help with their in-kind part of the contribution. So this is the amendment that were requested to the state for the final of that amendment request.
It's pretty straightforward.
Any questions or comments? So basically, just to summarize, we've got dollars that were in Burton
In Burton Log
there was
Cabin.
or some kind of litigation going on over there, and we couldn't hold the funds any longer there, so put it to use in the fairgrounds. So I think it's pretty simple deal. Okay. So at 10:25.
Close the public and make a
Close the
motion.
public hearing.
Okay.
Do we need to vote? Okay, thank you, Kelly. All right. So then we will go to item number 8 for the Geauga County Engineer.
Morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Good. Just the wrap up of the Bainbridge Road Federal Project change order. Approving and executing the final change order, decreasing the amount of $37,942.
You decreased it $37,000?
Yes, it was a decrease. We actually, this is one of the first projects where we're actually doing a mill. We actually milled off the surface. Our pavements are getting to that point of
So
where,
thick. Yeah.
well, they're perpetual. They're almost into a perpetual pavement where we just mill off the surface and put it down. So we reduce the amount of pavement repairs that we anticipated. So that was
I
the
see.
amount that got reduced.
Okay. So if we could do a read on that.
The County Engineer's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute change order number 1 and final, decreasing the contract to First Construction Company Incorporated for the asphalt resurfacing of Bainbridge Road, CH11 sections A through G in Bainbridge Township in the amount of $37,942.35.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Commissioner Keating?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye, motion approved. Yeah, thank you. Have a good day now. Okay, the sheriff. How are you, Sheriff?
Good.
Congratulations again. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Congratulations to you too.
Well, yeah, a couple years yet. A couple years. Okay.
All righty.
I come to the board today on 3 items. The first is a declaration of certain county property as surplus. We've been replacing tasers for 2 years, establishing rotation. The old tasers are obsolete. The vendor, the company manufacturer, no longer supports with parts, batteries, projectiles, etc. Most importantly, they will no longer supply an expert witness to come and testify on your behalf if you utilize that taser. During the course of time, we've accumulated about 50 of these is what we have. We checked with local vendors, houses, etc. There was no interest in them. We did locate an outfit, Kaiser Supply. They're located in Indiana. They have offered us $10 a piece for them. And we would have a credit for some other law enforcement equipment. Our alternative, because they're a police model, not a civilian model, would be to crush, destroy them. So we thought this was at least a better step in the right direction. So
Okay.
that's what we're asking.
So do you have a changeover for everybody with the new models now?
Yes,
Okay.
we're getting. We've got a rotation. We've got a few more as we pull out, and that's why
Yeah.
we're saying approximately 50. We're pulling them out and
What about
doing the
it?
updates and replacements. So.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So then if we could do a read on number 9.
The Sheriff's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute Resolution Number 14-177 declaring county property as surplus and direct sale of equipment against purchase of other law enforcement equipment as authorized by ORC 307.12 Section G.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Sweetie?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye. Motion approved.
Thank you. Again, I think that's $500 is better than nothing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, the next item is our VAWA grant, Violence Against Women's Act. It pays salary for an investigator. Primarily concentrates on offenses, violent offenses against women, to include domestic violence and others. This is a continuation of a grant that we've been getting, and this is a step in the pre-award. Bottom line, because it comes from a couple of sources, is the monies that weren't used, monies coming forward, etc. We'll get just shy of $60,000 from the Office of Criminal Justice Services, $59,965.54. So this is a pre-award authorization.
Okay. So what we'll do then, we'll read number 11 and 12. Or I'm sorry,
10
10 and 11.
Number 10,
So that we
okay.
can,
And I'll give you the background on number 10.
Okay.
This is our third time we come to the commissioners with grants as we work towards leveraging dollars and replacing the MDTs, the computers in cars, to get the new operating software.
You still have XP in a lot of those MDTs.
Yeah, OLEG, many of the state database sites are no longer supporting the old, and there's an interface issue, and computers have to be upgraded. The new grant will allow us to get 7 computers and mounts as we move towards replacement. So that's the 2 items.
and then those the ones that you'll be able to get, those going to be the same to match whatever else you're buying. I mean, they'll be the same type of units.
Correct. We used one of the early grants to purchase a couple of
Test
computers,
models.
so we could test from. We tested from Fujitsu. We tested from Dell.
Who'd you end up going with?
We ended up with the Fujitsu. Their after delivery service was much better than the Dell. We had issues with Dell. And it just you got to look beyond just the initial
Just
price.
equipment.
Yeah.
You're right.
Now, is it
Do
set
they
up
stay
like
with
the
you
hard
once you
books?
Well,
bought?
they'll be
Is
there.
it set up with like the hard books, or is it more of a laptop?
It is a laptop. It's not ruggedized like the Panasonic.
Okay.
The Panasonic, although an excellent piece of equipment, very expensive.
Yeah.
You're talking $5,000 plus per laptop. These are much more competitively priced. We're looking roughly the $3,000 range, a little bit more with mounting bracketry, etc. It doesn't make sense in this day and age to buy a 20-year computer.
Right.
Turn over.
Right.
That's
Absolutely.
it. I mean,
Right.
and next year something, and it
It'll
just,
come
yeah.
out.
I mean, you can
You
almost
can-
just get in a rotation.
When you get close to 2 for 1,
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe even a little bit more than that. Yeah.
So I have personally run a Fujitsu and the cruiser I'm driving. Been close to a year, and it's performed well. It's been durable,
Yeah.
quick.
And that's
That's what we
important.
wanted to do. So
Okay, that sounds good. All right, if we could do a read on those then.
The Sheriff's Office is requesting the Board approve and authorize the President of the Board to execute the Office of Criminal Justice Services pre-award grant conditions for the Geauga County Stop Violence Against Women Act VAWA, grant number 2014-WFVA28214 and 2014-WFVA28214B. The Sheriff's Office is requesting the Board approve and authorize the President of the Board to execute the Office of Criminal Justice Services pre-award grant conditions for the MDT replacement, grant number 2014-GGA026468.
I'll make those motions.
Second.
Commissioner Sweetie?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Yep, have a good day now.
You too.
Okay, Mike from Transit. Good morning. Got your message. I haven't gotten a chance to get it pulled yet.
You can see we're requesting advertise for 2 part-time drivers
Okay.
for transit. One is to replace a gentleman that we recently hired who was working out very well, but he has a personal issues. Yes, he was
Okay.
resigned from us. And then we're asking for one additional driver to go forward to 2015. Gives a little more operational flexibility, helping out the seniors and the other folks in Geauga County. So,
Sounds good. All right, if we could do a read on number 12.
The Transit Department is requesting the Board grant permission to advertise for 2 part-time transit drivers, number 2210-1. These positions will remain posted until filled.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Sweetie?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Motion approved.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Okay. Office of Community Economic Development. Morning.
Good morning.
How are
Hi,
you?
Jen. Well, thank you. How are you?
Good. Good.
Both of these items are as a result of mortgages placed on property when we were doing developing assistance rehab grants. But
They're paid off, though, right?
yeah, they're reducing the way that it works. It reduces 8% each year, and the 20% remains. It never goes away. But what we've been doing lately is when they want to refinance, they had typically asked for subordination agreements. And we don't want to continue to subordinate. We just want it to pay off. So
Yeah.
they're typically refinancing from, like maybe a 6%, 5% rate down to 3, 2 or 3,
Yeah.
2.5%,
It's really low
3%. So
now.
yeah, paying us off isn't out of the question. It's probably the best thing. Starts to relieve some
Get
of
us
the
off the
paperwork.
hook.
Right. So that's what this is.
Yeah. Okay, Johnny.
So do we want to read 14 and 15?
The Office of Community and Economic Development is requesting the Board approve and execute a satisfaction of mortgage for Kimberly L. Schroeder for down payment assistance for property located at 12630 Hobie Drive, Chesterland, under grant number BC030261, as the mortgage in the amount of $10,000 has been satisfied. The Office of Community and Economic Development is requesting the Board approve and execute a satisfaction of mortgage for Kimberly L. Schroeder for rehabilitation assistance for property located at 12630 Hobie Drive, Chesterland, under grant number B-D03-026-2, as the mortgage in the amount of $4,570 has been satisfied.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner
Aye.
Sweetie? Commissioner Spudler?
Aye. Motion approved.
All right.
All right, thank you.
And then I would also like to remind the commissioners that our annual Christmas breakfast
The 16th.
is Tuesday, the 16th.
Yeah.
We'd love to see you there.
Okay.
Got it in my phone.
Thank you.
Okay. And Jerry from Water Resources. Morning.
Hey,
Good
Jerry.
morning.
How you doing?
Good.
Good.
First item here is the sole change order for our project at 87 and 306 in Russell. There's some unforeseen underground conditions on the old, the
gas station.
gas station.
Oh,
I'm trying to think of who it was. Well,
The BP.
The BP was Ohio, I think.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
it closed, I don't think
Yeah.
BP had even bought
On the
them yet at that
northeast
point.
corner.
Yeah.
The northeast.
Some of the areas where they had removed their old tanks, and there was a lot of gravel and extra groundwater and everything that they had to deal with. And then we had similar issue with the service line that was going to be put in for the Shell station. Their tanks were in the way, so we had to relocate that, which then took it into took it into their pavement area, so we had some additional pavement work that wasn't foreseen to begin with.
So I mean, we're looking at 13,419 of an increase.
Yeah.
So I mean, compared to the whole project, we're under 10%.
That total change order was, I think when I looked at it, was about 7%.
Okay.
So, and we're still well within the original assessment numbers that were presented.
Plus, at the time of the year too, when they started that, that's quite a mess to work in that.
Yeah, they did a very good job too. I mean, people, once they were done, they got cleaned up and seeded it and got everything ready to go. I had a couple of people come and you couldn't even tell them that there was even a project that had been there. So,
very nice. Are people pretty satisfied with the whole deal there?
yeah, everybody except for the Shell station is tied in.
Okay.
Let me correct that. The township office buildings, their service connection is run. They're not officially tied in yet because they needed to have a grinder pump, which they're still waiting for their grinder pump to be delivered.
What about where the fire department and the police department, are they in too?
The new ones, they had been in.
Okay.
They were put in when they were constructed. They tied in. They're actually tied in through the subdivision
On the back side.
Yeah.
On the west side.
Correct. Hackenor Woods.
Okay.
It's been a long time in coming, man.
And those are all tied into that Russell Lane, right?
Correct, the Russell Park, and we're working on that. We were waiting on getting approval from ODNR and Army Corps, and in the meantime, we started having some issues with our filter system there, and that's been the issue in the past when we've had flooding.
Right.
That filter system has gone out. What we're looking at, we're roll into that project, replacing the filters, and we're actually move them, put in disc filters, which are above ground systems instead of being rapid sand filters in ground. So that'll get them out above ground, and we shouldn't see any issues if we do get flooding again.
And where do we stand with that EQ tank there? How did?
That was what we were waiting on the approval from the Army Corps and ODNR for.
Okay.
So we're still we're going to put this all into the same project, and that way we'll get one contractor doing everything.
So then the
Two
EQ
separate
hasn't
projects.
actually been.
It has not gone in yet, but the plans were approved by the EPA, subject to ODNR and Army Corps giving us approval. And I had a hard time even finding anybody at ODNR who would say.
Yes.
Who would even let me know whether they could review it and give me an answer? So,
So we still have some form of some overflow issues then every once in a while with some storms.
just we actually have reduced those because we did it not on the plant but through the collection system. We've worked on making repairs to the collection system, so we're not seeing quite as high I&I.
Okay.
And as long as the river, we've actually getting the discharge line up, so the river's not causing, because it tends to be what happens is the discharge line was getting covered by the river, so we weren't able to push as much out.
Yeah.
And that's what was causing the backup in the plant also.
Yeah. Okay. So then the bypasses have probably gone down quite a bit.
Yeah, the bypasses have gone down since we got the filter back up and running.
Okay.
Once we got the pumps and everything in there, we haven't had to have any bypasses do it.
Okay.
The problem with the filters right now is the metal tank is rusting through, so we're getting groundwater into the system, which is fine. It's clean water getting into but it's still going in through the sand filter even. So we're now filtering groundwater before it goes out, but it's not affecting any of our samples or anything like that.
And that system is pretty old, though. I mean,
it was put in originally in the original plant was put in the early 60s, and then it was upgraded and almost completely replaced in like 72. So,
okay.
And now we'll have, hopefully within the next year, we'll have the tank in and a brand new filter system and relocating even really part of our project what we're looking at is we're going to relocate the blowers up into the new building, so they'll be up higher also.
Yeah.
So if we do have it in, then we're raising the dike around the plant. So.
Nice. Okay. All right. So then.
That's good.
So we need to do a read on 16, is it?
Yes, the Department of Water Resources is requesting the board approve and execute change order number 1 and final increasing the contract with Mr. Excavator for the Russell Township Center Sewer Project in the amount of $13,419.27.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Second?
Commissioner Sweeney?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye, motion approved. And then we've got Merritt Road here.
Yeah, next is our Merritt Road Garage, asking the permission to go out for the request for proposal process, start the request for proposal process
Architecture.
to update the, or increase the office facility down there, as well as putting in a cold storage area for some of our trucks to be able to park outside instead of in the garage. And then we have, we've been looking at for a while, and this will roll into this project, relocating and upgrading our existing fuel tank area. There, right now, our fuel tanks are actually owned by Oman Oil, so we have to buy our oil, or buy our gas from them. We're going to have our own, so then we can go out and actually bid out and get better prices on our.
So would you be redoing a complete fuel system?
Yeah, we would actually be relocating it and everything, the corner of the property.
So let me ask you something on that. So would you be looking to possibly take your offices and everything down there? Is that the goal?
That would be
The
ultimate goal,
Yeah.
at some point,
And then-
as well as bringing the lab up from infirmary into that building and kind of consolidating
Coalesce
the
everything
department back together.
Because this is something that I've always not shook my head on is if you're going to be doing that, why would we not want to look at consolidating a fuel station for all county vehicles and have a smart system that you would have a card to be able to swipe and be able to, you just swipe your card in there of who it is that's filling it up, and then it gives you the breakdown of who it is. But then we could have, you could fill up there. You could have the engineer's office. I don't know if they've got their tanks already over there or not, but the sheriff's office is filling at Burton Lumber there, Western Reserve.
Well, and transit is going to gasoline vehicles, and all they have for bulk is diesel.
So
that's right across the street.
if we could try to think about before we go and spend a little bit of money here, a little bit of money here, a little bit of money here, maybe we need to look at this and say this probably makes sense. And at that point, being in that hub right there, all of those vehicles could service it and do it just right once.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Right now, we definitely be part of that.
Yeah.
Because right now we even have, just for our vehicles and for each of our employees, everybody has a gas card and a vehicle card. So then both of those go into the system, and we keep track of vehicles and double checking. It helps for us too, just for ours to say double checking mileage of looking at it and saying, hey, wait a minute, this vehicle's starting to lose gas mileage. What's going on? Let's bring it in and get it checked out. But we could add that to the system too.
Exactly, and that was the that was the whole thing too. I mean, as far as fleet management, to be able to have that card that you indicate your mileage, and then it'll flag it if there's a major difference in where the mileage is. It'll spike that on the report. But each individual department would have their own report that it could produce. And the other big thing is we could put bids out for fuel and reduce our costs. Right now, we're kind of at the mercy of what some of these gas stations want to charge. Where we might be able to do something in bulk to be able to bring the whole cost down too.
Yeah.
So
we can talk about that further.
Yeah.
If we want to do that as part of this project, and then open it up to the.
Then it'll reduce your costs as far as your department. If we have the assistance of multiple agencies that want to do that, I think it just makes sense to do, more in numbers than to just try to have
individuals.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, sorry to take us off track there, but so then on number 17, then if we could do a read.
The Department of Water Resources is requesting the board authorize the department to begin the request for proposal RFP process for architectural design services for the expansion of the Water Resources Garage located at 12550 Merritt Road in Clarendon Township.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Sweeney?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye. Motion approved. And just come to think of that, is I get my gas sometimes over there. I think the county engineers think that they're here, but I think the county engineer's office gets their gas at Burton Fuel too.
A lot of people get it at Burton.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So And it's a real pain because their tanks are a little bit difficult because they're short, so you get a big overflow there, and sometimes, it's almost like the county is hindering other business to come in there to do business because you can't get in because of the line of trucks and stuff. So
They probably like our business, though.
Well, I'm sure they do.
I'm
But,
sure they like it. And
and they
once
could
you
sell
move
us.
it,
They could
even
sell it
lose
in bulk.
something.
They could bid on selling.
Well, they
to
could
us
sell
in
it in
bulk.
bulk, right?
Right,
and
exactly,
And the
yeah.
better the and the lower the price.
And it'll free up their pumps for other people.
Plus, you
too.
can track it with the computer. You can track what's going on. That's the big thing.
Well, if you design it, with enough room, then ultimately down the road, maybe you're looking at natural gas.
Yeah.
Having a natural
Yeah,
gas filling station
that's a
as
problem.
well.
Yeah.
Okay, so something to
Interesting.
really consider.
Internal combustion
Skip,
engine
put
with
it in your
natural gas.
thinking cap there.
It's internal.
What were we thinking about?
You can buy, I know.
Thanks,
Mark.
Mark.
Thank you. That runs on natural gas. It has 8 gallon fuel tank.
I had already talked to Joe about that.
Additionally,
So if you're out reading natural
He
gas,
wasn't
you can put gas.
Ah.
Runs on that.
I ran into some bulk storage folks when I was on the Commission Association meeting, so. we
Yeah,
talked
they're
a little
there.
bit about that.
okay. Next.
Okay, then we've got here the Commissioner's Office is requesting the board approve and execute resolution number 14-178, establishing the starting location and time of the December 23rd, 2014 regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners in Russell Township that will begin at 6 a.m. 6 a.m.
In the morning.
Good.
AM. Are you saying AM?
Yeah. Bring your flashlight. Bring your flashlight.
A little dark and early. We just seeing a skip in
Yeah.
I just wanted to.
Just wake everybody up. That's all. So that's 9 a.m.
So 9 a.m.
Okay, that's December 23rd. Okay. Yeah, I think I have that. Okay. Great. Stillwater.
Still got to get up before breakfast.
Your motion on that?
I'll make a motion on
Second.
that.
Commissioner Sweetie?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
I motion approved.
Okay, shield your eyes because I'm going to fire up the thing overhead here.
Here. Now we're doing, appropriation.
Here's the on the pulpit. And the computer's not talking to the thing in here.
How you doing, Walter?
A little better.
Yeah.
A little better than that.
Come on. Wake up. There we go.
Here it is.
There it is. Sure. Okay, I'm going to move my hand over here a little
The
bit on
lights, all right.
the video.
See it, all right.
Can you see it? Okay. You need to turn the lights
Yeah, we'll turn the lights off.
Always a little bit.
Turn the lights off so if you want to nap.
Doze
you can.
off.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay. All right. So this is our discussion of the 2015 permanent appropriation. This is the budget.
This is
All right?
it.
This is the budget that we actually spend from. So we've had a tax budget. We'll go through the cycle here in a minute. But let me walk on to the next page here and go over the budget process. The Budget Commission certifies revenues expected to be received for the year. And along with that, they look at the unencumbered fund balance at the beginning of the year. And that's the cash in the checkbook, less all the purchase orders that have been written and carried over that we've committed to spend some of that money that's in that checkbook. So together, revenues and beginning balance are resources. So resources is an important term because when the commissioners go to set an appropriation, set the budget, they cannot spend more than the resources that have been certified by the Budget Commission.
Okay, and for today's purposes, we're mainly going to talk about the general fund, which we typically do. There's
We
other
can
funds
spend.
found in the budget, but they are by and large spoken for grant funding. They have to be segregated for a certain purpose, and the general fund is the large operating fund of the county. So as Dave said, we had our resources for the budget certified by the Budget Commission in August, and we had estimated the carryover balance of about $4.5 million, which is a relatively conservative estimate, but we always do that for budgeting purposes. And then the revenue amount that they actually certified for the year next year is just under $25 million, to give us total certified resources of $29,416,948. So that is what we are able to appropriate. Just taking a look at the revenue side, just the breakdown of what those revenues are in the general fund. As you can see, the sales tax is about 44%, and the real estate taxes collected are about 30%. So those two income sources are the large, almost 3/4 of the operating budget of the general fund. Some of the other sources are the 9% is in the department fees and fines. Those are fees that are charged by our county departments, the auditors, the building department, the courts, all the fees that they collect, the recorders, the treasurer's office. Other is about 4%. That is mainly the rent that we collect on county buildings. We have some gas well revenue, some miscellaneous grants, and things that we collect from the auction proceeds, things that are put up for auction on the county auction. Property transfer tax, that is the fee that's charged when a property deed is transferred to a new owner. That's about 3%, about $850,000. Also about 3% is our casino tax. That's the tax on the casinos that are operating within the state of Ohio, their gross earnings, and 51% come to the counties, and it's allocated by population. About 2% is our local government tax, which has been decreasing in the past years. That's the revenue sharing fund that comes from the state. It's distributed by the state to the local governments. About another 2% is prisoner housing. That's a pretty conservative estimate, but that's the revenue that's generated from housing inmates in our county jail. That's the immigration inmates, mostly Geauga too, some other smaller entities. Another $500,000 or 2% is from cost allocations. That's the chargeback we do to some county departments that are outside of the general fund that receive services from the general fund. And the last part, of just about 1%, and this has gone down substantially, is the interest income. That's the revenue that's generated on the investments by the county, which at one point, I think in 2008, it was $2.4 million. Now it's down to $300,000.
I often talk about the fact that the revenue from 2008 and 2013 was about the same in total, but dramatically different in its composition.
So that makes up the revenue that's in the county. As we said, the total appropriation in this permanent appropriations budget for all the funds is about $108.4 million. The part for the general fund, as we said before, is about $29.4 million. That's what we had in resources available. But we did have additional requests from departments that totaled about $30.2 million. And as Dave put a little note down there, that difference of about $800,000 also doesn't include, we had additional requests from some departments outside of the general fund that would like transfers from the general fund. So commissioners have to take that into account when they're looking at all those requests.
So again, the total appropriation, all funds, $108.4 million. What that means is that's the total amount of money that currently we expect to have checks written for Geauga County purposes, for purposes of entities within the commissioner's budget. The county treasury and the county auditor receives a lot more money than that from various sources that's then dispersed to the schools, to the townships, to the villages. So there's a lot more money than this 108 that goes through the county treasury and is turned around and paid back out by the county auditor. The part we're looking at today is what the commissioners control for county operations within the commissioner's budget. This also doesn't include the park district is not in that $108 million. The health district is not in that $108 million. And the library, Geauga County Library, is not in that number. I usually say those are three agencies that people think of that are county agencies that are not in the commissioner's budget and not part of that $108 million. Again, that money is being received in by the treasurer, their money, and spent out by them, but it's not part of our budget. It's not anything the commissioners control.
Okay, so we talked about the revenue. This is just a breakdown of where the money actually goes out of the general fund and how it's spent there. Broke down between the departments. See, the largest portion, about 40%, is the public safety, which is the sheriff's office is the majority of that, and then we also have the coroner's office, and the building department is included in public safety. And that's about $10.8 million of the budget. Next largest segment would be the legislative and executive. That's about 32%, or just about $8.5 million. That's most of the other elected officials' offices. That's the auditors, our commissioner's office, the prosecutor, the recorder, the treasurer, our record center, ADP, or the IT department, maintenance, planning, and also the Board of Elections is included in that. And then the 17% is for the judicial. That's most of the courts, your common pleas, your muni court, your juvenile probate court, also the clerk of courts, and our public defender's office make that judicial 17%. We have 2% that goes to conservation and recreation. That's the funding that we provide to the OSU extension and also the Soil and Water Conservation District. Human Services, we have another 2%. That is our Veterans Service Commission. And we have the 1% for health. That is state mandated. It goes to the Ohio Department of Health for children with medical handicaps. And the county is obligated to appropriate, it's $0.1 and so our maximum liability for the year, we don't always have to pay that, but our maximum liability would be $314,000.
And then the other portion, they would have the levy, their levy that
Well, that's the health
control their
Yeah,
own deal.
that's
Yeah,
health.
that's a separate deal. This is, they call this the Crippled Children Fund,
I see.
and we have to appropriate that money even if in the end they don't ask for it. So that money's tied up for the year.
Right, but that is our maximum. Once we reach that maximum, we wouldn't have to pay over. And we typically don't go up to that amount, but we do have to appropriate it.
And that's about how much?
About $300,000.
300, okay.
Is the max.
That's the
Some
max.
years
It's
we
a tenth of a mil.
Some years we spend a lot less, and that becomes part of that carryover. That okay, good, we didn't have to spend that money that we had to set aside.
I see.
And then that other miscellaneous, that 6%, a large portion of that is the funding that we provide to Ravenwood Mental Health Center for the operation of the youth center. A lot of our professional service contracts are in there, our liability and property and vehicle insurance that we pay for all the departments in the county, our portion of the Court of Appeals that we have to pay, postage, legal fees, just a lot of other miscellaneous
Transfers out.
equipment.
Is that
No, this is just all the departments.
okay? It's the operating.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of small print here. Try and go through this pretty quick. These are the requests that are over. Currently, we have over and above the approved tax budget. In other words, these extra numbers are not yet in this appropriation we're presenting to the commissioners to adopt today. And remember that the previous slide showed about $800,000, $30.2 million in requests versus $29.4 in the appropriation. And you see this number is higher by close to $400,000. That includes, this number includes additional money that these departments are asking for to not put it in their general fund accounts, but rather transfer to out of the general fund to special fund accounts that they control. Okay. So the auditor, and I think Heidi has the backup on a lot of this. And that's usually when we're in the budget hearings in September and October. The commissioners are sitting with each department, and there's a budget hearing, and they make the requests, and they explain in considerable detail, a lot of cases, this is the extra money, and this is why we need it. So I think Heidi has some of that for you.
Yeah, the auditor amount is basically for travel, and Auditor Leah is now the president of the Auditors Association, and then there was a small amount of salary increase in there. The ADP board is, they want to increase their contract services. They wanted to have a little additional overtime for some personnel to cover their chief technology officer, and there's a capital equipment request in there for switch upgrades. Board of Elections is also a capital equipment. They are looking to purchase e-poll books for the polling locations. Building department is also a capital. That's a vehicle replacement. Clerk of Courts is a reappropriation of a project that they've tried to get going for the past couple of years, a scan to microfilm project. Community Development, that $100,000 is they're requesting to have transferred to their local revolving loan fund, which is the loans that they give to businesses in Geauga County. Juvenile probate is made up of multiple different things. There's some salary requests, contract services. They also wanted to expand their FLIP program, which is the Family Life Intervention Program, part of the Heroin Initiative. The maintenance department has a capital request for a dump truck and also some additional personnel, and they would like to increase their jail maintenance line items since a lot of the jail items are now not under warranty. OSU Cooperative Extension just asked for additional operating funds. They've been flat funded for a number of years. The sheriff, most of that is they are requesting 2 additional vehicles. We funded 4 in the tax budget, and they're looking for 2 more. And then also they would like to purchase some body cameras for the deputies. And the Veteran Service Commission, that initially was a salary request, although they have recently submitted that they're not going to be needing that full amount, so that request will be lower.
Any questions on this page?
Yeah, and I don't have my glasses on, but the additional monies requested by the sheriff, is that $99,000?
$99,900.
Okay.
And the vehicles are probably 55,000 of that. The body cameras, again, this is kind of in light of what we see going on, where the police say such and such happened in an incident, and the other person involved says something else. The body camera is designed to document what's going on. So
It's a good thing.
So, okay, these are only wish lists here.
Yes.
correct.
Yeah. Okay.
At this point.
At this point. Skip.
Do we have documented how much of this creates a permanent liability versus a temporary capital expenditure?
Great
Well,
question.
that's what I was discussing with Dave. I mean, anytime you have salary or additional personnel, that is an ongoing expense. Capital equipment request would be just a one-time thing. So
You get a body camera. Wow, even body cameras, though, there's a maintenance liability, future liability, because if you buy them now, you've got a procedure in place, and in the long term, you've got to replace them over time. It's like a computer,
Right.
so on and so forth. So there is a permanent liability associated with those. Do we somehow document that so we can tell out of this list?
You would get all the backup.
Yeah, she has all that.
And you can get me a copy of this.
Yes.
Yep. Any other questions? Okay, so let me walk you through the supplemental process. After the beginning of the year, we will know how much cash we have sitting in the checking account at the beginning of the year. And we're going to use, for an example, based on recent history, that we ought to be around $7 to $7.5 million plus or minus. So that gets people buzzing about having a $7 million carryover. To me, that's kind of like you look at your checkbook online, and you know you've written a lot of checks, but boy, that balance looks really good right now because those checks haven't cleared. It's kind of the same thing. Okay, so let's walk down and see what we end up with. First of all, we historically are going to have around a little bit less than 10% worth of that cash balance is going to be tied up in purchase orders. We've committed to spend money, and it's going to come out of that 7.5. So now we're down to 6.9 million. Now, for budgeting purposes, you'll recall we assumed $4.5 million worth of carryover for the appropriation we're placing offering to the commissioners for adoption today. So that money is already spent. You can't spend it twice. That's already spent. So now that leaves us with $2.4 million, or this example, available for looking at other things. One thing we haven't talked about yet, but Heidi has thoroughly documented, is we have a lot of money every year has to go into what's called transfers out accounts. These are transfers out of the general fund into other funds for purpose or for spending purposes out of those funds. Some of that is discretionary, and what Heidi will be preparing to provide to the commissioners right at the beginning of next year is a complete list of these are the transfers out, and they can go down them, and we'll go over any questions they have. We'll say, okay, this one is pretty much a mandated. You have to spend the money. This one you could decide to change that number, eliminate that number. So some of it's discretionary, but by no means all of it discretionary. Contingency. In our budget that we're presenting today, we have $350,000 in there. Historically, we like to have, 300. That's right. 300. Historically, we like to start the year with about 3% of the general fund. You're allowed to put in 3% for contingency. That would be $750,000. In some years, like this year, we have quite a bit left in that contingency. Right now, we have a little bit under $500,000 out of that $750,000. So we have a comfortable balance in there. Last year, the commissioners decided in August that they wanted to look at funding for the heroin problems, and the commissioners sat down and made based on requests from departments, made a supplemental appropriation in August of $292,000. Because we set up that kind of contingency fund, we had the money and the resources available to do that without having to make painful cuts somewhere else. So we would recommend to put that $450 on top of the $300 that's currently sitting in there to take the contingency up to $750. But again, that's something the commissioners may decide to change.
Right. The other thing with contingency that we've had to do in the past is if some point during the year one of our revenue sources falls, the Budget Commission is going to decertify that revenue. And so once they decertify your resources, you have to take it somewhere out of your budget. So in the past, 2009,
right,
we had to pull that money out of contingency and a couple other areas to cover it, but it's kind of your
safety valve.
Yeah,
if that hadn't been in there, we would have had to make cuts in other appropriation areas, possibly salaries. I said, look, we don't have enough money now in that. What's that?
I think we did.
Yeah, well, we may have. Or we could, but because we had a contingency buffer there, we didn't have to make cuts that affected or caused layoffs because of that decertification we got in the middle of 2009. Finally, there's this departmental request that we had illustrated on the last page of $1.1 million. Now, we can't do all that because if we did all that, the general fund balance remaining after that looked like comfortable $7.5 million would actually be negative $730,000. But Joe, please don't write in there we're going to have a $730,000. We can't do that. We're just demonstrating that if they wanted to do all that, and if we started with, now if for some reason we started with $8.3 million, then we could do everything. But that would probably not be, that's probably not what we're going to see based on Heidi's forecasts of cash, which are usually very accurate. It's all dependent, though, on how much money out of their appropriation the elected officials, department heads spend out of that general fund appropriation they were given at the beginning of the year. Typically, we don't spend a lot more, in most cases, than 90% of what they're provided. And that enables us to have that carryover. Whereas if they spend it all down, we'd be down around this 4.5 that we put in the budget. So the takeaway from this is we don't have the $7+ billion pot of money that people can ask for money out of. In reality, we don't have it. In reality, we're not going to have a deficit because we can't have a deficit.
So the department request would have to be reduced down to $300,000-$400,000.
Well, department requests, reducing some of these transfers out, and maybe not putting quite as much in contingency. Those are the areas where the commissioners will have to adjust to reality so that they don't spend more than the resources that are certified by the Budget Commission. Any questions on this slide? This is a very important slide to understand. And finally, we always do a slide on general fund debt. We had $1 million available in our debt retirement fund in August. So we applied $750,000 against the final debt of the safety center, thus paying the safety center off less than 9 years after it opened. And we put $250,000 on the radio upgrade. It was $4.5 million originally. Okay. Now, so the safety center debt's paid off. We now have $3 million remaining on the radio upgrade. So in the general fund, our debt is currently $3 million. In this appropriation, where we've made a provision for $500,000 to go toward retiring that $3 million debt within 6 years, which I think is important because this is debt on technology, and you don't want to finance technology too long because it becomes obsolescent very quickly. And that is it. Do we have any questions?
So you don't have what each department's going to get.
Well, that's in that document over there.
Yeah, I know that, but for those who are watching.
Very different from what the tax budget was, because we're still limited by those resources.
Right.
So,
Right. And this has always worked. This approach has always worked well.
Well, the goal is we watch the money very carefully. Heidi watches the money very carefully. We're very fortunate to have Heidi, who is on this all the time. We don't get surprised very often. We got surprised a little in 2009. Other than that, we don't get surprised very often. And we're looking out in the future. So if we have to make adjustments, we can keep them as painless as possible because we start adjusting as soon as possible. So we're not being surprised and having to make big cuts that really hurt.
The only thing that I would probably add to this is, to try to remain transparent, to the taxpayers too, is that, we're in, major discussions with a lot of different departments, being, the court, as you saw today, water resources, probation, just a lot of the different situations that we're facing, the clerk of courts, Veteran Service Commission, that there's a lot of these different departments that are coming forward that we've gotten to a point in the county where we can exist for a little bit longer, but our population is dictating that we're outgrowing some of the facilities and some of the needs that we have in this county, and it's not a situation that we want to just throw money around, because I think that Heidi does a great job. I think that Dave has been doing a good job, and the current and past commissioners have always been very responsible and very accountable to their money. But we also have a realization that we're going to have to make some changes, and there's going to be some things that are going to have to come up. And rather than just come out with a smoking gun and saying, here's what we're going to do, we want to keep the public involved in the decision process and to be able to make them a part of the whole process moving forward so everybody feels comfortable. You're always going to have opposition. I don't care if you gave somebody $1 million check, they would complain about the color of the check, It's just, you're going to have that. But ultimately, we just, our goal is not to throw money away, and I think that, I know coming into this position a couple of years ago that the past commissioners have done a good job, and Mary and Tracy and Bill Young, as far as the safety center, getting that all taken care of, at an earlier time, and just making some of those decisions. And just like the safety center, that had to be a big decision that had to be taken on, but it's done, and it's got now maintenance. Maintenance matters, like Skip said, but that's like anything else. But we really need to just be open and forward with the fact that it's going to have to be something, because we've got to find another funding source within our county to be able to make some of this happen for decisions. And I think that this is the perfect time to at least bring that up, because of the fact that this is a matter of the dollars and cents, and a lot of these departments have been at a position that They have been very, very, very tight in their belt of running a very, very tight operation. And sometimes what has happened is you try to save on one thing, but you pay someplace else. And I think, the biggest issue that we see is that, we can pat ourselves on the back in this county because the commissioners ended up making a decision about a year and a half now to move forward on that heroin initiative. And there are successes that we can never measure in the form of what's ultimately life that we have saved. There's families that we have been able to, with the ability of aggressively pursuing this heroin issue, aggressively pursuing the fact that we have zero tolerance, that there we will never be able to say what we did on that part. And I'm not looking for that. But when you give us a comparison to a lot of the other counties and the issues that they are still seeing of growth, and you see where we're at, we've actually kind of reached a plateau.
Yeah.
And we should be proud of that. And it was money that we spent, and from when I brought this up the first time, we either spend the money now or we spend it 3 to 10 times later, and for a lifetime in keeping these people that are going to be affected by these drugs that in a rehabilitation form forever, and causing dollars forever. And I know that people say you can't arrest your way out of this, and I agree with that. But good, strong tactics to be able to take control of this and hit it head on and identify it is critical. And I think that, a lot of these courts, juvenile court, common pleas court, municipal court, they're all experiencing these issues, and especially on the juvenile, and when all these kids are in that curiosity age, and that age that they're getting involved in this stuff, and all of a sudden they're put on that court, that their abilities to control some of this stuff and the costs that are there is difficult. And I think that it's just everybody has to do what they can do to be able to stay within their budget, but at the same time we also have to look at is we've got to come to a realization as a county and as a people having reasonableness to move forward to say, we understand this, where do we go from here to just make some right decisions to bite the bullet now and save it a whole lot later. So
Absolutely.
And I
have
think
an influence on this too, Ralph.
the who?
The press.
Right.
And in the public, viewing of what you're doing in the cause of transparency, the press is a significant item here, as far as I can tell.
Well, and that's the thing. We
keep
need
the
to
public informed.
Right, and I
have the press, really.
Yeah.
The attendance here is a witness to that.
Right.
You make a beautiful presentation. Thank you, Heidi and David.
Well, and there's a lot of people that'll view this online also. So people look at this online, and but you're right about that. And I think that it's like anything else. The old say, garbage in, garbage out. It's critical for us to put out good information and good information and accurate information. And to not have it as a slander fest. We need to do the right thing. We need to do a position of looking out for the best interests of the whole county. And Mary said it many times, this county's changing, and it's changed a lot. And it's going to continue to change as we have more population. And just we're dealing in a whole society change of what, almost as if, wrong is right and right is wrong. And all of a sudden our court systems are flooded with just...
Yeah, and I think too, Ralph, education to our young folks, really young, take them down at first grade, honestly, just start them right there and start to explain to them what this drug thing can do to them down the road. And, we all have children that are in school, and we certainly don't, even grandchildren that we don't want to see, fall into this pit. And, we can look back in time, and I can remember in the 60s, it was LSD. It was, a lot of us can remember what it was like. And, we'll always have problems, but I think as long as we hit it head on and we find that point where, the diminishing returns start coming in, we need to find that.
Well, and I think that parents have to continue.
They gotta be there.
Start doing parenting. That's
You're
what
right.
it ultimately comes
You're
down
right.
to.
You're right.
Is it shouldn't
Absolutely.
be government's position
No.
to be parents.
I remember,
parents should be parents.
I always remember the one teacher over there at Notre Dame used to say, I remember her, Sister Bruce, she came out and she said, I'm going to tell you right now, 95% of the control of what happens to your children is from the home.
Yes.
95%.
So with that, if I could add kind of to reaffirm what you were saying, to me what's important about what you're referring to as far as a plan and being transparent, I was looking at it from an economic development standpoint.
Yeah.
And I think the businesses, before they want to invest a lot of money in the county, they want to feel like government
It makes sense.
gets it, and they're responsible, and they understand, and they have a plan, and they're going to focus on moving things forward and try to minimize the infighting and try and be positive and accomplish great things. And I think going forward, I think previous boards have set this board coming up with an opportunity to do a lot of really good things.
I think
So-
they will.
So with that being said, if that brings our budget hearing to close, I want to address one more issue before we close out here. I had an opportunity last night last night I attended the Board of Mental Health meeting, and what I found was yesterday my phone did not stop ringing off the hook with parents from the West Geauga school district and Cardinal district, and I probably had, I'd say probably close to 30 parents come into the store last evening, and it was not pleasant. And as I learned what was going on, I became extremely disturbed with this, and I found it necessary last night to attend the Board of Mental Health. And to give you a little bit of background here, what I found was that the school boards in the schools in Geauga County, not private schools, but the public schools, because I contacted Notre Dame to see if my daughter was going to be involved in any of this, and they said they had absolutely no idea of any of this, and that they wouldn't participate in this type of a thing. But what happened was there's a survey that is being done with the children in our public schools from grade 6 through 12. There's also a survey that is going to be conducted on Friday at Berkshire for children for 4th grade and 5th grade of a separate type of survey from what I was told this morning from another parent, that she said they have not yet given her the survey and they're concealing this from her, but the fact that they are supposedly doing this with 4th and 5th graders. And I was able to get a hold of this survey yesterday, and I was absolutely appalled to some of the questions that were in the survey. Questions such as, I think I am overweight. A doctor said that I'm overweight.
Where are you?
This would be on one of the back pages. But more than anything, is that
Ecstasy.
this is giving out to 11-year-olds, 10-year-olds, that basically say, these questions ask about your feelings and experience in other parts of your life.
Carried on hand.
Think of your 4 best friends, tried beer, used marijuana, used LSD, carried a handgun. Does that sound familiar, carried a handgun? When we just had a major incident in one of our public schools, and about 3 years ago, this same type of survey was circulated into public schools, which probably included Chardon. Okay? Now, what I'm telling you is this, is that these questions to a 10-year-old, if you told a 10-year-old, I've heard that parents buy Christmas presents and keep them in the kitchen cupboards until Christmas. Where do you think that 10-year-old and 11-year-old is probably going to go and look when
Kitchen
you're not
cupboards.
looking? Kitchen cupboards.
Yeah.
So when you're putting questions out like
Plant the
this,
seed. Plant the seed.
on how many occasions have you drunk one or more drinks of an alcoholic beverage during the past 30 days? And then it goes on to say 0 occasions, 1 to 2, 3 to 5, 8 to 9, 10 to 19, 20 to 39,
I don't even
40
know what
or
those
more.
things were when I was 10
So,
years old.
so how about taking it to the next one? How many occasions have you sniffed glue? Breathed the contents of an aerosol spray can or inhaled other gases or sprays in order to get high in your lifetime? How about this one? Used prescription drugs not prescribed to you in your lifetime. How about go to the medicine cabinet and start eating some of your parents' pills or your grandparents' pills? How about use bath salts to get high in your lifetime?
Bath salts.
Is this what we want our kids to be susceptible to?
Well, I think this is disturbing.
Well,
Sometimes
let me add on to that, because I was also at the meeting last night, and this is being put out through the mental health board.
Well, and let me finish. So
So,
hang on one second, because I've got a full. So
the right to beat up on people.
so basically-
after they start the fight.
it goes into even suicide. Sometimes I think life is not worth it.
That's disturbing.
All in all, I'm inclined to think that I am a failure.
Oh my
What
God.
are we? It's all right to beat up people if they start to fight. I think it's okay to take something without asking. It is important to be honest with your parents, even if they become upset. I think sometimes it's okay to cheat at school. What I'm saying to you is this: is that children, and I'm not here as a psychiatrist. I'm not here as a psychologist. I'm not here as a mental health professional. But I am here with over 20 years in the background of being in law enforcement. And I am here as a parent, and I am here as a county commissioner, that I have a right and a duty to the residents of this county, and I have a right and a duty to the people that have been calling my phone constantly, showing up at my door, leaving me 3 notes at the house yesterday when I got home, and finding them on my door when I got home from the mental health meeting last night. But more than that, what was disturbing is, as I'm sitting in this mental health board meeting, the mental health board, that this board is responsible to putting 8 of the 6 people on, were never given a copy of this survey. They were never shown this survey. When this issue was brought up, I asked, "Have you seen the survey?" One member on that board says, "No, I haven't, and I really don't want to see it." I told him to step outside and resign, because if that's what his position is, then that's not what we want for a board member. We are entrusting in that board to do this. Fortunately enough, and a pat on the back to the commissioners that are currently sitting on this board, two of the newest members of that board identified that there was a problem, and were able to start to take some action to be able to put the forward press of trying to get this stopped.
This is incredible.
This is ridiculous, and I want to leave this with this word here. When I called for Jim Adams' resignation for all the problems that he had with the dollars and cents, was very minimal, to the point of that man continuing to push this type of garbage into our schools. And I'll take it one step further. I spent almost an hour and a half yesterday afternoon on a conference call with the creator of this exam out of Georgia, okay? And you know what the end result was?
What?
The end result is that they do this to receive grant money. The worse the results are, the more money they get. And the creator of this himself, I believe his name was Leeton, the creator himself said this is a money grab survey so that they can gauge how much more money they can get from grants. I also have an email from an individual from the Board of Mental Health, not from the board, but rather from one of the employees, that clearly states in there that the primary reason for this is to receive grants, to utilize to receive grants. If we are poisoning our kids to receive grants, we need to get our priorities straight. Mental health needs to get their priorities straight. The Board of Mental Health needs to get their priorities straight of a director that is putting this garbage into the hands of our students. And I'll take it even one step further. You know what the waiver is for this? When the kids get a waiver, it is so manipulative. The parents would when
kids can opt out.
Kids can opt out of this. The parents can opt out for their parents. But they have to send in a signature to say they don't want their kid to take this. If that kid never gets the paperwork, or the parents don't receive that, guess what? Your kid is taking that survey because they don't have a paper. How about turning it around to the point that says you have to have consent to take a survey? I don't agree with this survey to begin with, but I'm saying this is all underhanded, undermining tactics. And at the end of the day, our kids are being poisoned with this stuff. And more than anything, our parents are being swindled and their kids are going to school and experiencing this. So with that being said, I've drafted a letter, and it says, "Dear Mr. Student, from Director of Jobs and Family Services."
Who's Mr. Student?
He's the director from Greg Student.
Greg is?
Greg, I'm sorry.
It's not Student.
Swenson. Craig Swenson.
I think you got to change that.
And I'll change that.
Yeah.
Craig Swenson.
Not
Yeah.
Student.
Craig Swenson from the Director of Jobs and Family Services. The survey for the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students that the Geauga County Mental Health Board is checking to disseminate to Geauga County schools is extremely problematic and raises serious concerns. While many Geauga County law enforcement, juvenile judge, and prosecutors are fighting to limit the juvenile drug use in our county, this survey suggests and provides a roadmap to 4th, 5th, and 6th graders with respect to dangerous and unlawful drug activities. It is highly unlikely that the 4th to 6th graders know about huffing aerosol or sniffing glue, yet the survey introduces these young students to such illicit and dangerous activities. Because of youthful curiosity, it is likely that some of the students introduced to such illicit activities will pursue glue sniffing and huffing, essentially expanding the already growing youth drug problem. Why would our county mental health board introduce our youth to other means of dangerous drugs use in a survey? The survey also contains questions that introduce on private parent-child relationships of our county residents. For what purpose? There's a number of these in there, of personal issues.
Well, I would wonder that the health thing would be, an outright, you're not supposed to find out.
Exactly.
I mean,
The
isn't there a
confidentiality
law?
of the
Isn't there a
survey
HIPAA
is
law
also
that would be-
suspect. While the student does not place or
Many of
his
these
or her
questions
name
you can't ask
on the
unless
survey.
you're asking, unless you have a parent present and the parent's
Right.
given permission.
Correct.
Because some of this stuff is
The
admitting
HIPAA
that
law-
you're breaking the law.
That
That's no
HIPAA
fair
law
law.
would be
You
violated.
can't do that. It's not HIPAA. That has to do with
Just
the law of having a minor
A minor
ask
answer
questions outside of the parent without the parent's involvement or the parent's awareness.
This
And so this document, I believe, is child abuse.
So it says here, the confidentiality of the survey is also suspect. While the student does not place his or her name on the survey, each survey is individually numbered at the bottom. If someone maintains a list as to which student is given a specific numbered survey. The waiver process for parents is also seriously flawed. A parent must take affirmative action to preclude their children's participation in the survey. Some children may not have even taken the waiver home. According to mental health, they paid for postage, sent stamps for them to mail it. If they didn't get it in the mail, their kid is going to be taking this. At a minimum, the survey process should be carefully explained to all parents, and a signed permission slip signed by a parent should be a mandatory prerequisite before a student takes the survey. Finally, the survey contains some questions that invade the privacy of parents' homes and have no academic purpose. For example, an inquiry into a parent's gun ownership or the number of guns in a home is way out of bounds and smacks of some illicit governmental motive. The right of gun ownership is protected constitutional. Neither our schools nor the county mental health board have any right to the private gun ownership information. Moreover, using our children to obtain such information on their parents for some highly questionable government or sociological purpose is just plain wrong. Apparently, the main purpose of the survey is for use to pursue grant or other funding. Our students should not be manipulated and our families' privacies invaded for government economic purposes. I was appalled to have attended the meeting on the 10th of December to learn that none of the board members had seen or read the survey and that the survey was put out without their approval and just handled directly from the director and his staff. I strongly urge the board to review the conduct of the director and feel that fast and firm action is taken to put fail-safes and policies in place to control the aggressive and potentially illegal and liable actions that his decisions are putting our county in. Furthermore, the concern goes way beyond liability, but rather child safety and welfare. In light of these problems, I respectfully demand that all efforts to distribute the survey to the Geauga students cease immediately. The proper procedure should have included a committee consisting of representatives of our schools, parent-teacher organizations, jobs and family services, juvenile court, and other youth-involved groups to review the survey and survey process so that the rights of parents and students in our county adequately protected. I take a strong stand on this horrific and irresponsible action of putting out this survey, and I refuse to sit on my hands and allow our children to be poisoned by such material. I have a duty to the people of this county in this position I hold and officially move to formally request the Director of Jobs and Family Services accept this letter as an official complaint and ask that an investigation be opened to uncover the safety and welfare that the Director of Mental Health, Mr. Jim Adams, has put the children and families at risk. Respectfully, Ralph Spitaleri. So with that, I ask that,
I have
Mary,
one.
if
I
you
have
would
one
like
question.
to join on with this
Yeah,
situation.
I would like to join on, but I have a question, and I don't know if this is out of naivety or what. Okay, and I ask all of you to think with me. When you were younger, and you're going to have to go back to the time when you were when I was in 4th grade, I was 8 years old. And I want to tell you, when I was 8 years old, when I'm reading this, I didn't know what any of that meant.
Exactly.
I don't even know if I understood a lot about life at that time. And I'm going to tell you honestly, maybe by the time you reached junior high, you started to understand a few things, or you learned a few things. And this is my question. I am not a mental health professional, and I am not a teacher in the lower grades. How much do our children know today in response to what we knew? I mean, I've watched the commercials, and I am horrified. There was one commercial in particular I couldn't believe. I mean, I wouldn't even know what all that stuff meant. But that is being hit with our kids. Mm-hmm. How much do our 8 and 9 and 10-year-olds do know? I mean, I don't want to sound like I really don't know unless I sat down and asked them. But, to put this, I think Ralph's got a point here. When you tell a kid that the Christmas presents are in the kitchen, underneath the kitchen sink, or they're in the back porch locked up, that's where my mother used to put them, and I knew they were there. I mean, I walked in the porch, that's the way I got into the house, and the packages were all there. So what did you do? You opened them. And when Christmas morning came, it was, I saw this already. But I mean, that's a simplistic point of view, but I got to agree with you, Ralph. I mean, if my child or my grandchild came home with this, I'd be horrified.
Well, and the biggest thing is the concealed position.
I don't think that's anybody's position.
Hidden agenda.
Yeah.
I mean, there was in history, there was a man in history that got a hold of where all the guns in the country were. And when it came time to take over that nation, he found out where they all were, and he took those guns away from those people, and they couldn't even protect themselves. And you all know who that was. And Hitler had it down.
If you don't mind, I was at the meeting last night, and by the way,
this is upsetting.
Ralph's letter was very good, and his approach I fully endorse. Somebody needs to look into this, because if we're the thing that stunned me the most about being at the board meeting
who approved this
was that
the board,
Jim
who's
Adams.
supposed to be overseeing, we appoint board members.
Exactly.
And thank God we appointed 2 good board members who are willing to step up to the situation. But the board is supposed to be providing oversight to Jim Adams and others. The attitude that was expressed was one of arrogance. When we brought these up and we brought reasonable questions to the table.
Well, that's why my question
there
is:
was a
how
whole
much do our
attitude of-
young kids know? How much are we naive to understand that they're not in moxie and they're?
But that's an immaterial question relative to what Ralph was pointing out, because if that were the case, if in fact we're trying to survey to find out where our kids are, then that survey should not be given to us through a federal organization who has an agenda we don't understand.
They should come to the parents.
And it should be driven and guided by professionals in this county who understand what our unique issues are. The motivation for doing this was not to help our kids, and that question was asked last night, and I asked that question. The motivation was something else, because the mental health board's charge is not to go out there and fix our schools. It's a different charge. It's a different agenda.
I don't think the schools would.
And so, there's a lot of questions that need to be asked about this, and I applaud Mr. Spitaleri for raising this and getting this conversation going. I mean, there were a number of citizens at the meeting last night. It was a short notice
I
kind
didn't
of
even
thing.
know about this.
And so a number of us
I didn't
attended.
know about this.
I got hammered yesterday.
I mean, I
And
can't imagine.
it was stunning, the lack of professionalism that I saw exhibited at that board last night. It was just stunning.
Well, like I said, I think it's important to understand, are they, if this is all about money based, or is this about an issue that they see that's so constantly up and that we're just out of touch with reality?
The founder of this was asked, and the question came up is that why would we not put together a survey based on positive values?
Right.
And he said, we would never be able to make money. I would never be able to make money doing that. He says, and he even agreed on the conversation. He says, I agree that would probably be the better approach, but we would never be able to sell that. Nobody wants to read good news. They want to read bad news. And unfortunately, what he's basically saying is, let's poison these kids so I could get fat and rich.
That's what they're doing, is they're poisoning their minds with information that
Absolutely.
they really don't need to have.
Absolutely.
Asking questions concerning...
well, if you want your children to have
laboratory-
understanding, you want it to be brought to them in a way that they understand
By
the
the parents,
negativities
though.
of drug use, the negativities of these kinds of things. But, their principles and the way they believe in. I mean, why do you send your child where you send them?
Right.
Because you're looking for values
This
today.
destroys
We're looking for
naivete.
values.
A young person's mind is not prepared.
It's not ready.
It is not reached the level yet where it can even understand some of these concepts.
And
by the way, the results, one of the comments made last night was, well, we are gauging how our county is doing based on the results for this. Well, if you read the test, you've got a copy of the test. Which student do you think is going to be honest on that test? Yeah, I smoke marijuana. And so can you trust the results of the test based on the design of the test? There's so many flaws in this whole survey process that, again, it is something that we need to deal with, and I applaud Ralph for bringing this up.
And I think that once again, we need to call for action. We need to get the media to take a stand on this. We need the people to be able to finally, once and for all, get to the point that we get to the source, we get to the bottom of this, of getting final control of an organization that has been out of control, continues to be out of control, and how many prices of lives and how many prices of potential dangers do we have to continue to put our kids in before something else changes? And I'm not one to sit here and just wait for the next incident to happen in one of our schools, or the next child to die of an overdose because of the fact that at fifth grade he's taken a survey that all of a sudden he gets home from school and runs up to the medicine cabinet and says, I wonder what this will make me feel like if I eat all these blue pills or green pills or yellow pills. What's that going to do to what do we need that to finally take a change, or do we need to be proactive? And we have a responsibility as parents. We have a responsibility as public officials. We have a responsibility as a humane society to stop this, and it's got to stop. Ms. Jones.
Sadly, about 6 weeks ago, there was a very excellent, poorly attended seminar put on by a federal agent named Hill, and I can't remember Robert Hill. And we expected it was sponsored by Ravenwood. We expected it to be packed, and there was nobody. There were a handful of people that attended it, and it was very, very informative from the standpoint that it indicated the unwitting dangers of prescription drugs that parents do have around. And the statement was made, and this is an agent who he stayed over an hour and a half past his time to answer questions from the few that were there. And the stipulation was that there are more deaths from prescription drugs that are not prescribed than from any other cause, including the heroin problem. And so I think that there should be a recognition that there is a problem, but the conversation has to start back down at the household level. And it was absolutely unacceptable that with all the tables that were set up at Notre Dame, there were perhaps 20 people in attendance, including some trustees from other Geauga counties. So the recognition has to be there that we...
Did they actually give these surveys out already?
From what I understand, they
told
us
they actually go out tomorrow.
Is already completed on their
No, West G is supposed to start this Monday.
So they've given it to all 7 schools.
And Berkshire is supposed to start on Friday, and Cardinal is supposed to start next week.
Now, as a result of the intervention at last night's meeting, that process has been interrupted, correct?
Well, and I can tell you this. I was pretty disturbed at the fact of the, let's just go around the question 5 times. I will do my best to try to make contact with the people. No. If you're the one that is mandating that this test is supposed to be taken, then you call these schools and you tell them, until further notice, all of this is stopped. And my position is I'm going to get this, and I apologize for the thing was in my autocorrect from when we had that. Craig was in my thing from Water Resources. But it's Craig Swenson who's going to receive this. I'm going to have a conversation with him. But if he feels the need that he wants me to, or if he feels the need to go to it, to even go as far as to get to a judge, to have a court order issued to stop this, it needs to stop. And there are many, many, many issues in this that are 100% just poison. And the fact of the matter is in my time here, I was not serving on this board when this test occurred 3 years ago. Every 3 years is when they do these tests.
I've never seen this.
And my position is that this is bad. Parents and I guess I call to the media on this, is that the media needs to be able to put some of this information out there so that people, when parents see these questions, parents have no idea. They don't even make it available. It says in the form to call Linda Miller at the Board of Mental Health. You know what she tells you? You'll have to. We don't give out copies. They're very elusive around that whole thing. You have to go to the school and look at the test. They don't give it to you. So as busy as people's schedules are, as hard as sometimes it is with all the different events with kids and this and that, all this other stuff going on, you're to take that is their direct point, is to basically tell you to go to school. So you have to try to figure all this out on your own. The way that this is put in, It smells. It stinks. I don't like it. They basically put this in there in the most deceitful way possible to basically trick parents, and I'm not going to stand for it. This is wrong, and it's wrong. That's it.
Did you contact Dr. Colombo? He's the superintendent for the schools.
Okay, I did not.
I talked to Matt Galemo. I'd like to go to talk to Matt about it because he's a superintendent, and then from there work down to the other 7 superintendents.
I know, I was looking to see
and
for
discuss it
Carl
because
was
they do
This guy there.
have power
It
over the
pulled in, but he
schools.
lost the
I mean, they have.
Yeah.
And the problem, the thing that I'm not going to sit there and listen to this fantasy land, hypothetical statistical nonsense that Mr. Adams wants to try to basically, that's great for Star Trek. We're talking about our kids. And all of your results and all of your statistical information and data that you're talking about, that's got nothing to do with what our point is here. Our point is, we don't like this. We want it stopped. I would not have gotten bombarded with all the questions, and people don't know where to go. There's a feeling of distrust. There's a feeling of just everybody is kind of all intermingled. Nobody wants to take the unpopular position and expose this. Nobody wants to go out on a limb and put this problem out there. I have no issues with that. What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And this is wrong. And these parents have to be able to have a spot that they can have a voice in this. And this is and for our administrators to be able to think that this is right. And when you talk to the owner of this company, and I ask anybody to give him a call, when he can basically sit there and say it's all about the money, at the end of the day, we're basically selling our kids.
Well, I think it's inappropriate. Obviously, it's inappropriate. And if they wanted to take a survey, they should have discussed it with the superintendents, and they should have then spoke to the
and they claim
families and sent letters to the families, discussed it with them before they ever started in this. And I have to agree with you. I would be terribly upset if my grandchildren got this, and they are at the age like your daughter.
So, question: Do the local board of educations get to
it's the
review
local
this
board of
before
education.
these are issued to the
Yeah,
students?
I would go there.
Supposedly, according to the question was asked last night, and they said that the boards all approved of this. All the board of educations were 100% made aware of this. Everybody was on board with this. That this wasn't something that they just basically sent to the school. Then, the whole part of the step, the stamps were sent to them to be able to disperse this.
I'm going to check that. This is like, okay. Then again, I go back in my own experience. We never had sex education in school. And I know a friend of mine who teaches 5th grade.
This wasn't a formal class, is what you're saying.
Well, you're right. We learned it. Yeah, right.
It's like a vocational thing.
Now wait. Now let me. I have a friend who's a 5th grade teacher, and she told me she taught that. Now there's a way of teaching it, and there's a way of teaching it. But there's some places that really get into things that you don't want to, aren't appropriate. I think that's where this has gone. This has gone there.
So if these tests, this particular test, has been administered before,
I've never seen it.
I mean, that would be an important thing to verify.
The exact
every
kind
3
of
years
test?
they do this?
Yep.
Yes,
the same grade level? What grades
The
is that?
same level, the same.
The same 6 to 12. 6 to 12
Yeah.
graders. That's
Oh,
what
well,
we know.
this is 4 to 6.
There's actually
4 to 6.
from what I talked to a parent from Berkshire, she told me this morning that her daughter is going to be taking a test that in a variable form than this, and this is the reason I was late today. I was working on this. I had this phone call that I couldn't let go of her. She was explaining to me that there's a different test, similar type, with a different format of questions. I haven't been able to confirm that or deny that.
Well,
but
if this
that's
went
what
to
they
a
were
high
given
school
to
kid.
fourth and fifth. But this is from 6 to 12.
Oh, this is 6 to 12.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so that's a little
Okay,
different.
but the problem for me is if this has been going on, all right, how many parents did not know about it? How many kids did not come home and communicate that idea? And not
Absolutely.
all kids do. But if it's been going on and this is a regular part of the curriculum, then the problem does rest with boards of education.
It's boards of education.
When your mental health board had no idea that this was going on, I have a feeling that there was probably other board of education, not to throw them under the bus, because I don't think that they probably know about
No.
it either.
They didn't read it.
Well,
They just
I'm
read it.
going to talk to
Put it
Matt
out.
Dilemma and the other superintendents. I want to go right to where
It just
these
is
are
at the
people
point that
responsible.
the bottom line is this: is we need to get a new director in mental health, and I don't have a problem saying that point blank. And I really don't care what people think about that. It comes down to is we need a new director that stops to try to be dictatorial as far as taking this stuff and basically beyond his board of putting this garbage out there. His board had no idea. I would have a real problem sitting on a board that I've got to listen. My feeling is this: if the dog bites you the first time, it's the dog's fault. Second time, it's yours. If he failed to advise them of something of this nature and something as crazy as that, what else is he not telling them? You know, what else is he not telling them?
Well, I want to find out from the Board of Education, and definitely do. Definitely.
It just, I mean, you know, it's crazy. We have to trust our people in our positions of trust. If we have people that we can't trust in positions of trust, we have an absolute destruction of society. Bottom line. And I'm not some black helicopter in the sky theory, conspiracy guy. I'm just telling you, it's just ABCs of everyday life. You've got to be able to trust the person in that seat. And if the board there had no idea of this information, how could they trust him on anything he says? You know, it's ridiculous.
Well, I
It's a
want to
joke.
see. I want to see the survey for the fourth graders. I want to know exactly what they did with this and what exactly happened after that. Get all that. Unbelievable.
I think it's great you brought this to everyone's attention.
Yeah.
No, it's
and the boards of education rotate too. I mean,
right.
They change.
Yeah, but
constantly.
we've had the same. We've had the same superintendents, though. They've been in place for many, many years, because I know that. I mean, other than Jane Heyman leaving, okay, and then the Newberry guy left there for a while. I mean, they may have different ones. DeLong's been there. I remember, and I know Matt Glenwell's been there for at least
Long time.
17 years.
And look at the survey, by the way, just as a little side note. Look, there's a little asterisk. I think it's on the first page. It talks about that this test is part of the Common Core investigation,
Yeah.
whatever standards to implement Common Core. So this just tells you, and if our schools are in favor of that, we have issues, and we need to be talking to our superintendents and our boards,
Well, I'm going
and
to tell you
finally
that's
discovering
what I
where they're
said
at
when I did private
on this
school.
stuff.
That's
And
why-
actually,
that
those
is why I've always
results
done
should
it,
be
because I just
tabulated
don't agree
and
with the
available.
public school.
And I understand that, but we're taxpayers.
I know.
I
but-
pay taxes. You pay taxes.
Exactly, and I've been paying
And
for these schools
I
for years.
pay for private school.
Right.
But I should have
Twice.
a say also, because the same people that are going to those private schools still have influence on my child that I'm sending to a private school.
Oh yeah, because it's a society. It happens in the community.
Ralph, if this is administered every 3 years, we should be able to get a
The other
copy
ones.
of the results
They
from
do.
the last
They,
time.
they have the results, and
We do.
And it was a big song and dance that they're saying, well, drugs have gone down, and all this stuff has gone down, and there are all these. Okay, so we had the worst epidemic of heroin that we had last year, the highest record number of deaths last year. So at the end of the day, your results just based on just the fatality rate is skewed. You know, we don't have all the issues that we have in Chardon High School with the amount of drugs that are being done. Within the last 3 years, we had a Chardon school shooting where kids died. So if at the end of the day, their results of what they're trying to say have gone down, how about this? How about all these questions here of basically continuously implementing carrying guns in schools? Could that have been a direct correlation to potentially something that happened in this county? And I'm not here to throw bullets out there to say this or this or this. But at the end of the day, it comes down to is what else did something like this spark in the curiosity of a child's mind to be able to do this? To be able to possibly take an act on what he's reading in something like this.
But as far as violence and things, I mean, you can go back in history, and you can go back just to the 19th century, the turn of the century, it was pretty violent. Everyone had guns and they're all killing each other. I mean, it wasn't like, I mean, there's nothing new under the sun. Violence has been in place. You can go back to the 15th, 16th century and you can look at the Tudor dynasty. I mean, they didn't even waste time. They just chopped everybody's heads off. I mean, arrogance and cruelty has been with us. We've seen it with Stalin. We've seen it with Mao Zedong. We've seen it with Hitler. We've seen it with all of these people that were vicious and they did horrible things to people. Stalin was the worst. And, you know, Patton wanted to go in and take them right out. But what did we do? Oh, let's not do that. So what happened? Russia just got stronger.
And it's been an issue in schools for the last 20 years since
it's
Columbine.
been bad.
Well, and one more
and
thing
we
that
try
I
to protect our children. Obviously, we are a very conservative community. We want to protect our children.
Right.
We want the best for them. And this incites you. That's why you're angry, Ralph. You're very conservative. You know, we are conservative. We don't want bad things to happen to our kids. Unfortunately.
Well, and one other thing too is I had a conversation actually with a newer member from one of the school boards that had called me.
Yeah.
And
good.
She basically told me, she said, I've been getting a lot of these calls. I'm turning to you because I don't know where to go with this. But she basically said, she says, she's in a position where, you know, she doesn't know how to basically go the other route. It's just basically, you know, public opinion of just everybody else is just going to go along with it, so everybody else just goes along with it. My direct contact to her was to say, you've got to do what's right. You know, and I understand it's not always comfortable. It's not comfortable to be in this position to call somebody out on stuff like this, but at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do. And the problem is like, you know, Mary knows some people, Dave, you know some people on those school boards, but the fact of the matter is that sometimes they just don't want to go against the grain, and they just say yes, you know. Yeah. And I strongly doubt that a lot of these parents even saw these questions.
Yeah.
So with that, Christine, we need to make a motion on, and I apologize, Heidi, because I didn't make a motion on your budget here, but
I'll second. Oh, you.
Yeah, and motion, and Mary seconds, and
Commissioner Smeedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
and I motion is approved. So I appreciate everybody's time here. I know it's
I
gone
go
longer
with you, but
than
you have
12
to
o'clock.
change the language a little bit and put weeds and stuff.
Yep. So,
I can continue.
you want to do the announcements there? Let me see here. All right. So for the acknowledgments, what we're going to have is the monthly financial report for the county building department for the month of November 2014. A weekly report filed by the dog warden for all dog seeds impounded, redeemed, or destroyed for the week ending November 26, 2014. Then we have Probation Services Fund, offender fees report filed by Court of Common Pleas, Intensive Supervision Probation, Pretrial Release Services pursuant to ORC 2951021. Then the monthly report was filed by Geauga County Sheriff's Office of an account of expense for the inmate meals for the month ending November 2014. For the meetings, Friday tomorrow, NOACA Finance and Audit 8:30, Governance 9:30, Executive at 10:30.
The executive is not going to be that day. It'll either be Monday at 2 or it'll be the 22nd at 2. We haven't decided yet because I have somewhere else to go. I can't do it.
Okay.
So that'll be changed. I'll let you know what day it's.
But the other two are good?
Yeah, they're all good. It's just that they go too long and I can't be there till 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
So then on Monday, the 15th, Family First Council, 2 p.m. at Mental Health. The 16th is the Investment Advisory Board, 9:45 in here. The 16th, the commissioners will hold regular session. The 16th, Geauga Trumbull Solid Waste Management District Board of Directors, 12:30 p.m. at Welshfield Inn. On the 23rd, the commissioners will hold regular session beginning with a public viewing at 6 a.m. for the proposed 9 a.m. for the proposed dedication of existing undedicated extension of Stillwater Drive in Russell
You
Township.
do that one more time, we're going to think you're dyslexic.
Hey, this is like that survey. You hear it enough, you sniff and glue by the time you leave here. So on the 25th, the county offices will only open until 12 after the commissioners meeting at 10. On the 26th, the county offices under the Hiring Authority of Board of Commissioners will be closed for general business. The 24-hour operation will continue to operate as usual. The 30th, the commissioners will hold regular session with a public hearing at 10:30 a.m. for the proposed dedication of the existing undedicated extension of Stillwater Drive in Russell Township. And on the 1st, the county office will be closed for general business due to the New Year's Day holiday. 24 operations will still continue, and regular commissioners meeting is closed.
All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second that.